Copying a jiu-jitsu champion's game, move for move, position for position, isn't the best recipe for building your own unique game. So in this video, I'm going to give you a 3-part game building system that's helped out hundreds of students map out their own unique game. And I'm going to show you how to solve the most common game building mistakes that most students are making. All right, so let's start off with the first part of the system, which prevents really most students from ever developing their own unique game. And it works like this. So have you ever seen a bunch of cool moves from some jiu-jitsu guy that you really admire, and then you go out and you try to train him that night, but you really never find yourself in the position or the opportunity to actually try those things out? I know this happened to me all the time because students tend to focus on what they don't know versus what they actually know. So we have this fear of missing out. But in reality, once you have reached blue belt, you have learned plenty of things to actually build your game around. You just need to focus on making those things actually better. So the first step of our game building system is to audit what you already know. So get out a sheet of paper and list out some of the main positions. And I want you to start creating a list of what it is that you actually know from those positions. Because once you make the invisible actually visible, you'll most likely find a good starting point to build your game around. Now, there's one thing that you can really do to enhance this list and make it even more useful. Because right now, it's just going to be a bunch of moves on a piece of paper, and that's where the second part of our system is going to come into play. So to show you how this works, I'm going to quickly lay out the 5 components of my drip system. Now, if you're an OG of this channel, this is an updated model of what I would call my grip system, where we just have now replaced the G with the D. And I'll explain why I did that here in a second. You can also find a link to this framework down in the description below for free, so you can download it and have your own copy. But each letter of the drip system represents an extremely common situation and reactions that happen over the course of a jiu-jitsu exchange. So each letter acts like a container for your own decisions that you've basically pre-thought out ahead of time. Okay, so D stands for the defensive game. R stands for the root bottom game. I is your invading guard pass. P represents your peak top game. And last but not least, S is your standing game. The old system, the G, stood for your primary guard. Now, I still teach this concept to my students. However, it's just now baked more within the root bottom game. And personally, updating the component to the defending game has really helped a lot of my students and their focus. So how can we use this audit list and this system together? Well, think about which of the techniques that you wrote down fit within each of the drip's letters. Let's say that I listed out 5 things that I know from the side mount position. Things like a shrimp escape, or an underhook, or knee on belly control, maybe a straight arm lock, or Kimura attacks. Each one of these moves would fit into different areas of the drip system. So a shrimp escape and an underhook are going to fit more into that defensive component, while things like the knee on belly control, the straight arm lock, and the Kimura are going to fit more within the peak top game. Now, instead of thinking, okay, I'm on the bottom, I'm in a bad spot, what position am I in? And what have I learned? You are now thinking, I am playing defense. Can I underhook escape, or can I shrimp escape? Because you can do both of these escapes from multiple variations of side mount and even from full mount. Now, you might be saying to yourself, I don't know how to do the underhook escape from the full mount, or I'm not very versed in the shrimp escape from side mount. And that's sort of the point. That tells me you don't fully know how to use all the tools you have been taught yet. And this is how you fundamentally improve the things that you already know. You have to make them better. Now, once you finish the second step, you're going to have multiple escape options, guard passes, and even submission attacks from each of these letters. This is where part 3 of our system is going to take over. So the whole point of this game building system isn't to give you unlimited options, but it's to give you less. Your fundamental A game should not be made up of a million different things. Instead, it should be built around a few core things that you do very well. Let's use our example from earlier where we took our side control list and we split them into the different drips components. If we zoom in on the defending game, you might have multiple options or choices like we do here. All you need to do is ask yourself one simple question. Which one of these am I better at right now? If you had to pick one as your default or your go-to, which would it be? Follow that same logic regarding our peak top game. We might have to pick between a straight arm lock and a Kimura, right? Ask yourself which is better. Which do you feel more confident in using successfully? I recommend you continue this process for each of the components. Once you've narrowed down your options for each of the components, you'll have outlined your first A game and what it could look like. Here's a completed example. D might be a shrimp escape to some type of guard. R might be triangles and sweeps from the collar and sleeve position. I might be knee cut passes. P could be a Kimura attack from the top of side mount. And then S might be a single leg or some type of guard pull. Now you actually have assigned task to work toward accomplishing from each of these extremely common scenarios. Now, does this mean everything else that you wrote down is worthless? And the answer is absolutely not. Just because we have outlined our A game right now doesn't mean it won't change over time. Also, the things that you've already extracted out of your head and you've put out on paper can now act as possible B and C or backup options. Now, here's the most common mistake I see once students actually build an outline of their A game. They really suck at actually training it and developing it. Just because it's your A game, that doesn't mean it's perfect or it's even good yet. Just because you like Kimuras and that is your go-to attack from the top, that doesn't mean you hit them on a regular basis. That's what I cover in this video right here. How to actually train and practice the game that you have built. So check out that video coming up next.